Happy Friday. Tonight is one of those nights when most of the world's attention has been focused on what's happening in one city in Hamburg, Germany, where the G20 is happening and where President Trump sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin for the first time since Russia launched its attack on the U.S. presidential election last year. For the past few years, the United States and much of the world has been trying to isolate Russia for its aggressive behavior, for what it did when it annexed Crimea and made it part of Russia, also for what it did to our own elections. But today, the Russian timeout apparently ended with a full bilateral meeting between the serving U.S. president and President Putin. Tonight, I'm very happy to say, excited to say actually, that we've got the perfect person to take us inside that meeting, and even better, more importantly, I think, to help us understand what Putin has done to his own country and what he's trying to do to the rest of the world, including to us. NBC's chief foreign correspondent, my friend Richard Engel, has spent his career reporting from all around the world. Most recently, he has been spending a ton of time in Russia, as you are about to see. I'm really excited for this report. Here now is On Assignment with Richard Engel. Tonight, Richard reporting live from the G20.
Good evening from Hamburg, Germany. It's been a big day here, and by all indications, Presidents Trump and Putin hit it off when they met. Almost immediately, they rolled up their sleeves and started making deals. A ceasefire for part of Syria, an envoy for Ukraine, a pledge of political non-intervention, a framework for countering cyber threats. They even agreed, according to one U.S. official who was there, that this whole business of Russia's meddling in the U.S. election is getting in the way, and that the two leaders should just agree to disagree and move on. Make no mistake, this is everything Putin could have asked for and more. Today's meeting changed the world. It doesn't matter if any of these agreements hold. The Syrian ceasefire probably won't if past experience is anything to go by. It doesn't matter if the Ukraine envoy actually accomplishes anything. This meeting here in Germany matters because Putin has always wanted to make Russia a superpower again, a country that cannot be ignored in the key decisions shaping the world. And today, President Trump gave that to him. Today matters because Putin trained as a KGB agent to manipulate, corrupt, and bully his targets into doing his bidding. And today, many around the world saw Putin doing just that to an American president. People who know how Putin operates don't think for a second this meeting didn't go exactly as he planned it, that he always wanted it to go long, that he wanted to bait President Trump into trading horses. But there are costs to playing let's make a deal with Vladimir Putin. We've spent months looking at what Putin's Russia is like today, a place where business deals can get you killed and where speaking out also can land you dead. We've met analysts and activists who say Putin is playing Trump. But first, there are still protests underway in this city and fires burning tonight as demonstrators clash with police. We spent most of our day here in Hamburg on the streets, covering the protests and clashes that shut down the center of the city. They were big, tens of thousands of people from all across Europe, united by a shared desire to scream their frustration at all that's wrong in the world, from environmental degradation to war, greed, and poverty, and to do it within earshot of the world leaders they hold responsible. The other thing they had in common? What do you think about President Trump?
Well, personally, we in Germany, we just, we hate him. I think he's sexist, he's racist, he mocks people with disabilities.
Most of the protesters were peaceful, but others, self-styled anarchists, usually dressed in black, were looking for a fight. And they got it. Police are now sweeping through this entire area. They've been spraying their water cannons, some pepper spray, and just pushing people out of the way. The police came in heavy. The protesters never managed to break through a tight cordon around the massive conference center where the Trump-Putin meeting took place. And while we reporters were allowed through the police lines, we were corralled into a media center where we interviewed each other about the meeting that was happening in a room in another building.
What jumped out at me is that Vladimir Putin got the respect he so desperately desires.
Steve Erlinger with the New York Times has been covering world affairs and diplomacy for about 40 years.
For the first time in many, many decades, we're saying to the Russians, you can run your society as you like. We don't care. You want to beat up on your dissidents? Fine. Do you want to crush democracy? Fine with us. What we're interested in is what do you want and what do we want? Let's draw up rules.
And if the idea of Trump and Putin sitting down and drawing up the rules of the world sounds frightening, perhaps it is. So it sounds like Putin got a lot of what he wanted out of this meeting.
It feels like he got a lot of what he wanted out of this meeting. Apparently, according to Tillerson, the two guys hit it off. They had a lot to talk about, and they could have kept talking, except they have a concert to get to. So I think they'll now, he said there were no more meetings scheduled, but I think it's the beginning of what Putin hopes to be a beautiful relationship.
Donald Trump is not the first president to try to build new relations with Vladimir Putin. Here's what our last two presidents said after they met Putin for the first time.
I looked the man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy. We had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul.
I found him to be very smart, and I found him to have a practical bent.
But it's pretty clear from the body language at his last meeting with Putin that Obama didn't manage to build a working relationship with the man he called very smart. American presidents come and go, but Putin has outlasted them all. He's perfected the art of controlling every detail to achieve his own goals. All you really see when you look Putin in the eye is exactly what he wants you to see. So far, he's been winning every round in the long game he's playing against the U.S. But what is that game? Foreign policy analysts like to say that Trump is playing checkers while Putin is playing chess. But that, according to the world's most famous chess master, is an insult to the game.
Putin is a dictator. And dictators, by definition, in my view, don't play chess, so that's why I believe I have to defend the integrity of my game. I would rather say he's playing a poker game.
He's a poker player.
He's a poker player, he's a card player, he's a gambler. And he knows that his cards are not good, but he also, as a KGB guy, he's a good mind reader.
So is President Trump playing with Vladimir Putin, or is he being played by Putin?
He's definitely playing into Putin's hands. Whether Trump pushes a pawn or drop a card, all being played into Putin's hands.
Kasparov is widely believed to be the greatest chess player who ever lived. He's also a vocal critic of Putin's regime. After years of protest, a failed run for president, and multiple threats on his life, he left Russia and went into exile. We met him in Paris, where he told us that any meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin is inevitably a victory for Putin.
If Trump believes in a handshake, Putin believes handshake could be a way to fool his counterpart. And Trump is an ideal counterpart.
Do you think Putin tried to get Trump elected?
Absolutely.
To get Trump in power?
Absolutely. We have evidence he wanted Trump to win.
And why would he want Trump to win?
Maybe many reasons. It's, the simple one is just Trump psychologically, with his massive ego, with his rejection of the rules, would be the ideal counterpart. Putin believes that he's calling the shots all over the place. And we know it from history, that the power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
And you think he's now absolutely corrupted?
He's absolutely corrupt. It's the greatest danger that's being faced by the free world, because the man has intentions. Just listen to what we listen.
You think Putin's the greatest danger that the free world? You don't think that's an exaggeration?
Any other threat, immediate threat that the free world is facing, like ISIS or other terrorist groups, it's incompatible to what Putin can do.
Do you think he's an existential threat to the United States?
His hand is weak, and he knows it. Russia today is a pale shadow of the Soviet Union under Stalin or Brezhnev, militarily and economically. But Putin has a lot of money. He knows that playing this game by undermining democracy as an institution, by creating chaos,
And Putin seems to have a unique skill when it comes to creating chaos all over the world. He used stealth and misdirection to carve up eastern Ukraine and annex Crimea. And he sent Russian jets, troops, and guns to Syria to stop what he feared was going to be a U.S.-backed regime change.
Let's remember what's happened in Syria. In 2011, President Obama said, Assad must go. Putin said, Assad must stay. And now, everybody could see that Putin won this battle. We can start counting many reasons why it's happened, but psychologically, Putin has a big advantage because he says, Americans wanted the guy out. He's a bad guy, who cares? At the end of the day, he works for me, and as long as you are with me, so you will be protected.
So the more he can show that he's playing in other people's backyards and getting away with it.
Exactly. This is
people say,
it's the
we're back.
Look at the algorithm with Crimea. The first, oh, how dare you to accuse me? I'm a man of peace. No Russian troops in Crimea. Then a few months later, oh, the brave people there fought. How could we let them?
And now
let them alone?
Look how clever we were.
And then
we got
one year later, it's the already full recognition, bragging about it, and even pinning medals to Russian troops that were part of the invasion. And then he says, yeah, we lied. So what?
There's now ample evidence that Russia, through state actors, tried to interfere in the American political process. How would that help him stay in power?
Challenging the free world, especially the most powerful country, the United States, defying U.S. president, annex the territory of neighboring country. He can go to Syria. He can kick Americans from here and there. He can challenge Europe. He violates all the rules, and he's still in the game.
We'll hear more from Garry Kasparov later in the show. A lot has changed in Russia since Soviet days, but much has stayed the same. The might of the state, once at the service of a political party, now serves one man and a circle of very powerful and wealthy people around him.
The Russian mafia is the government of Russia. It's a mafia that's running a sovereign state with nuclear weapons.
We've spent months investigating a single case and multiple murders in Russia and around the world. That story is ahead. We are live in Hamburg.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.